It was a chilly morning in early January of the year 2022. Snow blanketed the quiet streets of Lincoln, Nebraska. Amanda stood at the kitchen sink, staring through the fogged-up window as the kettle squealed behind her. The world outside looked calm, but inside their small two-bedroom home, the air felt sharp, colder than the weather outside. Her husband, Mark, sat at the table, scrolling his phone like usual. No good morning, no eye contact, just silence, until he let out a laugh. "Look at this," he said, turning the screen toward her. "Some dude's wife lost like 80 pounds and looks like a model now. Lucky guy, huh?" Amanda said nothing. Mark smirked. "Wish I could say the same." That sentence landed like a slap. Amanda turned slowly, holding her breath. She was used to the comments, used to the looks. At 316 pounds, she'd been the punchline for a while now. At home, at his office parties, even at church potlucks. But something about this morning was different. Maybe it was the way he said it. Maybe it was because their daughter, Katie, had heard it this time. From the hallway, the little girl peeked around the corner with wide eyes. She didn't understand the full weight of her father's words, but she felt it. Amanda saw her daughter's face, and something cracked inside her chest. That same afternoon, Amanda went to pick up groceries. She walked through the aisles of Hy-Vee with her coat zipped high, hoping no one from high school would recognize her. But Nebraska towns are small, and secrets don't stay buried. "Hey, Amanda," came a voice behind her. It was Rachel Bennett, a woman who'd once shared her locker back in 11th grade. Tall, polished, perfectly toned. "Oh, wow, you haven't changed a bit," Rachel said, glancing down at Amanda's full cart. Chips, soda, frozen dinners. "Still enjoying life, huh?" Amanda forced a smile, but it hurt. That night, Mark laughed as he told the story at dinner. "She said Amanda hasn't changed a bit," he chuckled. "Well, except she added a couple houses worth of weight." Katie dropped her fork. Amanda stood up and left the table. For the next 3 hours, she sat in the car parked in their driveway, the engine off, her breath fogging the glass. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. And she thought about her values, her dignity, her health, her prosperity, her daughter. Amanda realized she had spent the last 10 years becoming invisible. And somehow, in doing so, she had taught Katie that it was normal for women to disappear when they weren't perfect. She looked up at the moon, hanging low over the snowy rooftops of Nebraska, and whispered to herself, "No more." That was the moment everything changed. But change never comes cheap. It costs time, energy, and emotional currency. Amanda knew that. She didn't want revenge. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted clarity, control, and above all, she wanted to rebuild. Her wealth, her health, her sense of worth. From that night forward, she started writing down goals on napkins, receipts, the backs of bills, little promises to herself. She didn't even know what 82 pounds lighter looked like, but she wrote it anyway, along with other words she hadn't dared to speak in years. Confidence, power, freedom, dignity. The next morning, she walked into her closet, gathered every outfit that no longer fit her spirit, and stuffed it into trash bags. She donated them to the shelter downtown. By the weekend, Amanda had canceled cable, cut off contact with the people who mocked her, and signed up for a private coaching program she found online. It wasn't cheap, but she viewed it as an investment in her future, her legacy, and the life she wanted to live. Mark didn't notice. Not yet. He still thought she was just going through a phase, still laughed when she ordered salad instead of fries, still called her the couch queen when she came home tired from her evening walks. But something was building inside Amanda. A fire, a vision, not just for weight loss, but for transformation. She didn't just want to be smaller. She wanted to be unstoppable. And she was just getting started. Because when the world tells you you're worthless, the most powerful form of revenge is becoming priceless. It was early February, and the streets of Lincoln, Nebraska were still wrapped in layers of snow. Amanda laced up her old sneakers, the ones with worn soles and frayed laces. They weren't made for running. They barely held together. But they were all she had. And they'd have to do. At 5:45 in the morning, she stepped outside. The air was cold enough to bite through her jacket, but she didn't turn back. For the first time in years, she was moving for herself. Not to chase approval, not to shrink for someone else's comfort, but to take back control. She walked fast, arms swinging, her breath turning to clouds in the crisp air. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't pretty. Her thighs burned, her knees ached, her chest tightened. But Amanda pushed through every step with one thought in mind. This pain would be temporary, but staying stuck in a life that stripped her of dignity. That would last forever if she didn't fight. By 6:30, she came back through the front door, cheeks flushed, fingers numb. Mark was already up, sipping coffee at the kitchen island. He looked her up and down. "You trying to run off the pancake weight or something?" He smirked. "That ship sailed years ago, Mandy." She said nothing, just walked past him and made her protein shake. Spinach, half a banana, chia seeds, almond milk, no sugar. She wasn't trying to impress him. She was building a new version of herself. Quietly. That night, Amanda watched videos about metabolism, emotional eating, and trauma. She joined a private Facebook group for women over 200 pounds taking back their lives. She didn't post, just read, watched, learned. 3 days later, she sold an old necklace Mark gave her back when he still cared. With that money, she booked a virtual consultation with a health coach named Dana, who lived in California. Dana had once weighed 380 pounds. Now she taught women how to change their lives, without shame, without pills, without lies. "Let's talk about values," Dana said in their first call. "What's your health worth to you? Your peace of mind? Your freedom? If you treat this like a luxury, you'll quit. But if you treat this like your life depends on it, it'll change everything." Amanda nodded slowly. That word, values, it stuck with her. She started waking up earlier, started saying no to things that drained her energy. Every morning she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. Some days it was small, like a sunrise. Other days, it was big, like resisting the urge to binge when the world felt heavy. But Mark noticed. And not in a good way. "You're obsessed now," he said one night as she meal prepped at the counter. "You think some kale and woks are going to turn you into a millionaire or something?" She didn't answer. He leaned in closer. "You ain't going to get rich off salad, Amanda." She turned to face him, calm and steady. "No, but I'm going to build wealth in ways you'll never understand. Emotional wealth, health wealth, and maybe someday, real money too." He rolled his eyes. "Whatever makes you feel better." Amanda didn't need him to understand. She needed him out of the way. By mid-March, she had lost 12 pounds. Her skin started to clear. Her energy was higher. But it wasn't just the number on the scale. It was the way she started walking taller. The way she looked people in the eye again. The way she held space in rooms without shrinking. At church, people began to notice. "You look different, Amanda," Miss Carroll said one Sunday. "Something's brighter." At the grocery store, Rachel didn't recognize her at first. When she did, she gave a tight smile and said nothing. And Katie, sweet, observant Katie, began mimicking her mother's confidence. "I told Dad I don't like how he jokes about you," she whispered one night. "I told him you're strong." Amanda's heart broke and healed in the same second. Strength, real strength, not from lifting weights or drinking green juice, but from choosing yourself in a world that profits off your pain. She still had 70 pounds to go. She still cried sometimes, still felt invisible when no one clapped for her progress. But Amanda kept going. Because this journey wasn't about applause, it was about ownership, about rewriting her own story, 1 mile, 1 meal, 1 boundary at a time. And deep down, even if no one else believed in her, Amanda was starting to believe in herself. That was enough. For now. By the end of April, the ice had melted in Lincoln, Nebraska. But Amanda's fire was just getting started. She had already lost nearly 20 pounds. Her old jeans were loose at the waist. Her face looked softer, her steps lighter. And yet, the mirror still reflected more than weight. It showed years of pain stitched into her posture. She had made progress. But the world hadn't caught on yet. Mark certainly hadn't. One evening, while Amanda laid out her workout clothes for the next day, he walked into the bedroom with a smirk on his face. "You know, gyms have mirrors, right?" he said. "You don't want to scare the folks on the treadmill." Amanda didn't flinch. Not this time. She turned to him and calmly said, "Every step I take is toward freedom. Every word you say just proves I'm doing the right thing." He laughed. "Freedom? What, you gonna start preaching now?" But Amanda didn't need to preach. She needed results. And results were coming. That week, she started going to the small fitness center at the edge of town. It wasn't fancy. No marble floors, no eucalyptus towels, just old machines, bright lights, and people who knew what starting over felt like. The first day, she cried on the treadmill. Not from pain, but from release. From remembering every time she was called names in middle school, every whispered insult in grocery store aisles, every time Mark had said she was lucky he put up with her. Each drop of sweat on that belt carried away another piece of that story. Coach Dana called her every Sunday afternoon. They didn't talk about pounds as much as they talked about peace, boundaries, intentions, prosperity, not just in terms of money, but in self-respect. "True wealth is waking up and liking who you are," Dana reminded her. "Money is a tool, health is a treasure. Values keep it all together." Amanda wrote that in bold letters on her bathroom mirror. She wasn't chasing skinny, she was chasing strength. By May, Amanda had dropped a full 32 pounds. Her energy was contagious. She started helping at church events again, teaching little girls how to cook healthy snacks and believe in their own voices. One of the older women pulled her aside after service. "You got light in your eyes again, baby, and that ain't from no diet." But as Amanda grew brighter, Mark grew meaner. He didn't like losing control. When she suggested turning their guest room into a small home office so she could try remote wellness coaching, he scoffed. "Coaching? Who in their right mind's gonna pay you for that?" "I'll build it," she said. "Brick by brick." Mark laughed again. "You ain't built for business, Mandy. Stick to your little salads." But Amanda saw something now she hadn't before. His fear. Not of her failing, but of her rising. Because if she could change, if she could build her own wealth and health without needing him, then she wouldn't need to stay. She remembered what Dana said once. When a woman starts valuing herself, small men get loud. So Amanda got quieter and more focused. She signed up for a weekend webinar on digital business, learned how to set up payment pages, designed her first online flyer. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. By June, she had dropped 45 pounds. Her skin glowed. Her smile returned. She even started braiding Katie's hair in the mornings with music on, singing along to old country songs like she used to, before the world told her to be small. One Saturday, as she got ready for a community walkathon, Katie came into the room with wide eyes. "Mom, you look like a boss." Amanda turned around, stunned. "A boss?" "Yeah, like someone who owns stuff. Someone rich, not just with money, with, like, power." Amanda laughed, then knelt to her daughter's height. "Baby, real riches are in here," she said, touching Katie's chest. "But yeah, your mama's building something big." She kissed her daughter's forehead and stood up straight. That morning, Amanda walked 3 full miles. No stopping, no quitting, no shame. People waved, some clapped, a few took photos. And for the first time in over a decade, Amanda felt seen, not for what she lacked, but for the mountain she was climbing. She hadn't reached the top yet, but she was finally on the right trail. By the time the 4th of July rolled around, fireworks weren't just lighting up the skies over Nebraska. Something brighter had started to burn inside Amanda. 52 pounds down. She no longer walked into rooms apologizing for her existence. Her shoulders were pulled back, her chin lifted, and though the scale kept moving, what changed more than her body was her relationship with herself. At the neighborhood barbecue, Amanda wore a soft blue dress that hugged her waist, one she hadn't dared touch in nearly 6 years. The moment she stepped into the yard, conversations quieted. Eyes turned. Some were surprised, some were impressed, and a few, like Rachel Bennett's, were clearly uncomfortable. Mark, sitting with a red Solo cup in his hand, didn't say a word, but his silence screamed. He had grown used to ignoring Amanda when she was invisible. Now that she stood tall, he didn't know what to do with her. "I didn't even recognize you," someone said near the grill. "You're glowing, girl." Amanda smiled graciously. "Thank you. I've been investing in my health." "Whatever you're doing, it's working. You look like you're living your best life." "I'm building it," Amanda replied. "One choice at a time." That phrase stuck with her. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was daily decisions, rooted in values, driven by purpose. She wasn't chasing approval. She was building a life of prosperity from the inside out. Later that night, while fireworks cracked overhead, Amanda sat in a lawn chair beside Katie, who leaned her head on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said softly. Amanda swallowed a lump in her throat. "I'm proud of me too, baby." And for the first time in forever, she meant it. But back at home, Mark grew colder. He had stopped with the jokes, not because he'd changed, but because they no longer worked. His control was slipping. Amanda now had her own bank account. She had landed 2 paying clients through her wellness coaching, each sending her real money for weekly guidance. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Her own wealth, her own work, her own seed of financial independence. She stopped asking for permission to grow. Mark noticed. "You think some online hustle is going to pay the mortgage?" he snapped one night. Amanda met his eyes. "I think peace of mind is more valuable than any house I could live in." He stared at her like she'd lost her mind. But she hadn't. She'd finally found it. In mid-July, Amanda reached a major milestone, 65 pounds lost. Her doctor's eyebrows had lifted in shock during her latest checkup. "Your blood pressure's down. Cholesterol too. You're in a whole new category, Amanda." She left that clinic floating. It wasn't about the numbers. It was about the evidence, the proof that she was healing. She celebrated by buying herself a silver bracelet at a small local shop downtown. Nothing flashy, but every time it caught the sun, it reminded her, "You did this. You built this life." Meanwhile, Mark had grown bitter. The more she rose, the more he tried to pull her down. He started disappearing at night. Long drives, late calls in the garage. When Amanda asked, he just said, "Don't start getting jealous now that you're a health queen." But Amanda wasn't jealous. She was done. Done trying to earn respect from someone who had none to give. So on a quiet Sunday morning, Amanda packed 2 bags, one for her, one for Katie, just in case. She placed them gently in the hallway closet, not with fear, but with foresight. Not as a threat, but as a backup plan. Because she knew now, her prosperity wasn't tied to any man. Her value wasn't based on his opinion. Her future didn't depend on anyone else's permission. She had wealth in her spirit, richness in her strength, health in her soul, and the more she shed pounds, the more she shed the weight of his cruelty. Amanda was no longer surviving in that house. She was outgrowing it. And soon, she would leave it behind, just like everything else that tried to bury her. By early August, the Nebraska heat pressed down on Lincoln like a heavy blanket. The kind of heat that stuck to your skin and made every breath feel slower. But inside Amanda's chest, something was rising. Cool, sharp, and unstoppable. She had now lost 71 pounds. Her body had transformed, yes, but more than that, her spirit had evolved. She was sharper, calmer, more in control. There was a new rhythm in how she moved, how she spoke, and people noticed, except for Mark. Or maybe he noticed and just didn't know how to handle it. He had grown quiet, dangerously quiet. Fewer insults, fewer jokes. Instead, there were long stares across the kitchen, tension heavy enough to cut with a butter knife. One evening, Amanda was folding laundry when he spoke without looking up from the TV. "Folks at work been talking? Saw your little Instagram? You trying to be some kind of fitness influencer now?" Amanda kept folding. "I'm sharing my journey, helping women who feel stuck." "Helping?" he scoffed. "You think people gonna pay you to talk about spinach and feelings?" She smiled softly. "They already are." That shut him up. Amanda had officially landed her 5th coaching client. All women, all over 200 pounds, all tired of being told they didn't deserve to feel good. The money wasn't pouring in yet, but it was enough to cover groceries, gas, and her daughter's school supplies. And every dollar felt like a brick laid in the foundation of her new life. Wealth wasn't always loud. Sometimes it looked like options. Sometimes it looked like peace. By mid-August, Amanda opened a business account. Her mentor, Dana, guided her through every step. EIN, tax prep, invoicing software, real things, professional things. "This ain't a hobby anymore," Dana said during one of their calls. "This is prosperity, baby. You're building a legacy." Amanda nodded. "For me, for Katie." And for the first time, she believed it. But Mark? He didn't see a legacy. He saw Amanda slipping through his fingers. He started picking fights over nothing. Dishes, gas receipts, the thermostat. One Sunday, he accused her of acting too good for him now. "You think you're better than me, huh? Because you lost a few pounds and made a few bucks?" Amanda stared at him, then said calmly, "I think I finally remember who I was before you convinced me I was nothing." That night, she didn't sleep. She laid in bed beside a man who resented her growth while dreaming of a life where she could breathe freely. Katie was asleep down the hall. Amanda stared at the ceiling, whispering the truth into the dark. "I'm done surviving. I want to live." 2 days later, she took a call that would change everything. A former client had referred Amanda to a small wellness retreat in Denver. They were looking for speakers. Paid travel, paid fee, exposure. Amanda hesitated at first, but then she remembered the suitcase in the hallway closet. The one she'd packed for just in case. This wasn't just in case anymore. This was now. She said yes. And on the morning of August 29th, at exactly 7:15, Amanda kissed Katie on the forehead, whispered, "Mommy loves you more than anything," and rolled her suitcase to the front door. Mark leaned against the wall with crossed arms. "This some kind of midlife crisis?" Amanda smiled, standing taller than ever. "No. This is me stepping into the life I deserve. Don't come crying back when it doesn't work out," he muttered. But Amanda didn't even turn around. She opened the door and stepped out into the rising sun, her suitcase wheels humming against the pavement. She didn't need his blessing. She didn't need his faith. She had her own. That afternoon, from 30,000 feet in the air, Amanda looked out the window as Nebraska faded below the clouds. She wasn't running away. She was arriving into herself. The plane landed in Denver at 8:45 a.m. on the dot. Amanda stepped out of the terminal with nothing but a carry-on bag, a folder of notes, and 78 pounds less of everything she used to carry. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. The air felt different in Colorado, drier, brighter, and somehow freer. She was met by a young assistant holding a small sign that read, "Amanda Hale, wellness speaker," her name, printed, recognized. "Welcome, Ms. Hale," the woman smiled. "We're thrilled to have you." Amanda followed her to a black SUV waiting at the curb. Leather seats, quiet engine. The drive through the city was filled with sunlight cutting across glass buildings and pine-lined roads. It looked like prosperity. It smelled like possibility. At the hotel, everything was sleek. Gold accents, soft jazz in the lobby, and bellhops who treated her like she mattered. Because she did. Amanda changed into her soft tan blazer, a crisp white blouse, and navy trousers that hugged her now slimmed-down frame. She looked at herself in the mirror. It had been a long road from the woman who once cried in the driver's seat of her old car, afraid to even walk into a gym. Now she was about to speak on stage, to strangers, about strength, health, and values. The retreat room was filled with over 100 women. Some thin, some heavy, some in between. But all of them carried something heavy on their backs that the world couldn't see. When Amanda took the mic, she didn't need notes. She told them about Lincoln, Nebraska, about being laughed at while grocery shopping, about Mark's comments, about how she once believed she had no value because she couldn't fit into society's mold. "I was over 300 pounds, she said calmly, "but the heaviest thing I carried was shame." The room went still. And then I realized, shame was never mine to carry. It was handed to me by people who were scared of their own reflection. She told them how she began walking, how she started writing affirmations on napkins, how she found the courage to charge money for what she knew, because her story had value. And that was her turning point. "My health was never just about losing weight," Amanda said. "It was about gaining freedom, gaining wealth, in my energy, in my peace, in my choices." After her talk, women lined up to speak with her. Some cried, some hugged her. One woman whispered, "You changed how I see myself." Amanda went back to her suite that night, sat on the edge of her bed, and cried into her hands. Not from sadness, but from release. From joy. Later, she FaceTimed Katie. Her daughter grinned from ear to ear. "Mom, they posted you on the retreat's Instagram. You looked like a queen up there." Amanda laughed, wiping tears. "You think so?" Katie nodded. "You look rich." Amanda paused, heart full. "Baby, I feel rich." And she meant it. That night, Amanda got an email from another retreat coordinator, this one in Scottsdale, Arizona. They had heard about her. They wanted her to speak at their winter event. Higher pay, first-class travel, all expenses covered. She stared at the screen in disbelief. This wasn't just a trip. It was the start of a new chapter, a new business, a new identity. By September 3rd, Amanda flew back to Nebraska, not on a basic economy ticket, but in first class. The wide seat, the warm towel, the glass of sparkling water before takeoff. She looked out the window, Nebraska slowly coming into view below her. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't returning to the place that broke her. She was returning as the woman who rebuilt herself from the ashes. When the plane landed, she walked through the private terminal, and there he was, Mark, leaning against the wall, waiting. His eyes widened, jaw slightly dropped. Amanda stepped forward, heels tapping confidently on the tile floor, a suitcase in one hand and peace in the other. "Hey," he said, voice low. "Hey," she replied, calm. He looked her up and down, like he was seeing her for the first time. "You look different." "I am different," Amanda said. "You flying private now?" Amanda smiled softly. "Sometimes when people see your value, they treat you different." He blinked. "You need a ride?" he asked. Amanda tilted her head. "No, someone's picking me up." Just then, a black car pulled to the curb, her name printed on the card again. Amanda gave Mark one last look, not of revenge, but of closure. She stepped into the car, the door closing behind her with a soft thud. And as they pulled away, Amanda didn't look back. Not once. She had already seen everything she needed to see. It was the morning of September 5th in Lincoln, Nebraska. Amanda stood on her front porch, coffee in hand, wrapped in a light shawl as the first hints of fall whispered through the trees. The breeze was cooler now, brushing softly across her collarbone, a quiet reminder that seasons change, just like people. She had been back for 2 days. The house didn't feel the same. Neither did she. It was quiet, not just in sound, but in power. Mark hadn't said much since she returned. He moved through the house carefully, like he wasn't sure who he was living with anymore. And maybe he wasn't. Amanda was now 82 pounds lighter, but what she had shed went far deeper than weight. She had shed fear, self-doubt. The invisible chains of a woman who once thought she had to earn respect by shrinking herself. She now knew her worth wasn't something she had to bargain for. That morning, Mark stood in the doorway. He didn't look smug. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. "Amanda," he said quietly, "we need to talk." She turned around slowly, calm, grounded. "I'm listening." Mark rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't know what's happening to us." Amanda tilted her head. "What's happening is that I changed. And you didn't. I never thought you'd actually leave." "I didn't leave," she said. "I evolved. There's a difference." He sat down on the porch steps. "I've been thinking," he muttered. "Maybe I said a lot of things I shouldn't have. Maybe I took it all for granted." Amanda stayed standing. She wasn't ready to sit beside him. Not yet. "I used to make fun of your weight," he admitted, "but I think I did it because I was scared you'd realize you deserved better." That silence between them, thick, full of history, hung heavy for a moment. Amanda nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying that. I needed to hear it." He looked up, hopeful. "But," she continued, "an apology doesn't undo years of disrespect. You didn't just break my heart, Mark. You broke my sense of self, and I had to rebuild her from scratch." "I know," he said, barely above a whisper. "And I'm proud of who I've become," she added. "Proud of my health, my values, the prosperity I've built from the ground up. I don't just feel rich, I am rich. In peace, in purpose, and yes, in money too, because I worked for it." He swallowed hard. "Do you think we could ever fix this?" Amanda stepped forward, her eyes steady. "Maybe someday," she said. "But not today." She walked past him, down the steps and toward her car, She was heading to the bank to sign papers, finalizing her new business account, securing funding for her growing wellness coaching brand. She was already booked through December. More retreats, podcast invites, even a magazine interview. The more she poured into herself, the more doors opened. That was the thing about values. They attract everything you once thought was out of reach. Later that afternoon, Amanda picked up Katie from school. Her daughter climbed into the passenger seat and noticed the look on her mother's face. "Something happen?" Katie asked. Amanda smiled. "Yeah, I let go of something heavy today." Katie tilted her head. "But you didn't go to the gym?" "No," Amanda chuckled. "Not that kind of heavy." They drove through the city, the leaves just beginning to turn. Gold, rust, amber. Beautiful proof that transformation doesn't happen in one moment, but in layers. When they got home, Amanda opened her laptop and glanced at the headline of her next feature interview. "From Shame to Strength: How Amanda Hale Turned Her Pain into Prosperity." She closed her eyes, let out a deep breath, and smiled. The girl who was once ignored, mocked, and dismissed was now the woman others paid to learn from. Her wealth was no longer a dream. It was her reality. And as for Mark, he would have to sit in the echo of his choices. Amanda wasn't waiting for him to catch up. She was already miles ahead. It was the morning of September 12th. Amanda stood at the edge of a stage, this time in Atlanta, Georgia. The ballroom lights were warm and golden, casting a soft glow on her face. Behind her, a screen displayed her name in bold: Amanda Hale, founder, Rise and Renew Coaching. Over 200 women waited in their seats. They weren't there just for weight loss tips. They were there to hear a story about reclaiming self-worth, building emotional wealth, and turning pain into prosperity. Amanda took a deep breath, steady and sure. "I was once 316 pounds, she began. But what held me back wasn't the weight. It was the lies I believed about myself, the voices that told me I had no value, the people who said I was too much or not enough." She paused. "But here's the truth. You are not your size. You are not your mistakes. You are not the insults people whispered behind your back or the ones they shouted to your face." Her voice didn't shake. Her story flowed like something sacred, as if each word had been carved out of the pain she once carried. She spoke of Nebraska, of Mark, of the night she sat alone in her car wondering if she mattered at all. And she told them how choosing her health wasn't just about body image. It was about survival, about values, about modeling strength for her daughter, about choosing wealth that wasn't measured in dollars alone, but in peace, in freedom, in the power to walk away. That afternoon, after a standing ovation and a flood of hugs, Amanda sat in a quiet room backstage, her phone buzzing with notifications. New coaching requests, a message from a women's business collective offering her a paid partnership, and one text from her lawyer. "Divorce finalized. You're free." She exhaled, long and slow. Not bitter, not broken, just free. By the end of the week, she was back in Lincoln, just for a visit. She pulled up in a white SUV she had leased under her new business name. Her logo printed small on the side: Rise and Renew, coaching for women ready to reclaim. She parked outside her old church. A community potluck was happening inside. She wasn't sure who would be there or what they'd say, but she walked in anyway. People turned, conversations stopped. For a second, it was silent. Then someone clapped. It was Miss Carroll. "Y'all, look who came home," she said with tears in her eyes. "Amanda Hale, looking like a whole testimony." Laughter filled the room. Real, warm laughter. Amanda smiled and waved gently. Rachel Bennett approached slowly. She looked smaller now, not in size, but in energy. "You look amazing," Rachel said. Amanda nodded. Thank you. I didn't always treat you right back in the day, Rachel added, and I'm sorry. Amanda didn't hesitate. I forgive you. Because forgiveness wasn't about letting people off the hook. It was about releasing yourself from the weight of their opinions. That night, Amanda walked the familiar sidewalks of Lincoln with Katie, now holding her mother's hand like she was walking beside a legend. Mom, Katie said, are you going to leave Nebraska for good? Amanda thought for a moment. I don't think I'm leaving, she said. I think I've just outgrown what used to keep me small. They stopped at the edge of a park. The stars were out. Clear sky, crisp air, peaceful. Amanda turned to Katie. One day, you're going to go through hard things too. Things that make you question your worth. Katie looked up. I know. But no matter what happens, Amanda continued, I want you to remember that you're never stuck. You can always rebuild. You can always choose your values, and you never have to stay small for anyone else's comfort. Katie hugged her tight. You're the richest woman I know. Amanda smiled, and she was, not just in money, but in legacy, in health, in truth, in the wealth that no one could steal. As they walked home, Amanda's phone buzzed once more. A message from a global women's summit inviting her to speak in London. She looked at Katie. Want to come with me to London? Her daughter's eyes lit up. Like, on a plane? Private jet? Amanda grinned. You and me, first class. Katie squealed, running ahead down the sidewalk. Amanda watched her, heart full. She hadn't just lost 82 pounds. She had gained everything that mattered. And the man who once mocked her? He could only watch from a distance, because the woman he tried to break was now flying far above anything he could reach. And have you ever felt the weight of someone else's judgment? Have you ever turned pain into power? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story.